Grape Street Crip. Grape Street.
Hey, hot set sticky situations, told you ain't no rushing greatness. Bottom of the barrel, slept in houses that was vacant. Tryna dodge my demons so I cope with medications. Hey, nowadays they give a rat a bag, this shit outrageous. Fuck talking, if it's that you wanna bang, let's make arrangements.
You don't think that the government had any reason to suspect that the Crips were dealing in firearms in Compton?
Rap News Street Politics, the best hood channel on YouTube, and we back in the hub and the dub, Compton and Watts, with that double M money murder gang, the Jack Boys, Eastside PJ Watts Crip. Now we know PJ Watts, the southeast of Watts, borderline to Willowbrook. These dudes are coming out the gutter, and not a lot of light get shine back here east of Wilmington, where it's going down at, with PJ Watts, Mona Park, Carver Park, Bounty Hunters, and the Grape Streets. But PJ Watts keeps they crippin' extremely low key. They following their own rules over here on the east side. But overall, this is a tight-knit community that has seen some violence decline between this year and last year. But you know we gotta bring y'all as close as possible to the streets. Speaking on PJ Watts beefing with them neighborhood 9-0 Crips all the way in Westside South Central. We also gotta speak on how PJ and the Bounty Hunters be on the 2-on-2 beefing with Carver Park and Mona Park across the 105. And we also got the feds and the snitches in Watts and Compton. And we gonna go ahead and speak on confidential witness number 1 in that big U indictment coming out of Watts. And we gonna speak on how the feds set up Mona Park in the nastiest entrapment we probably ever gonna see in the city, man. Now the key thing is, before it calmed down, it was extremely hot between all these hoods over the last few years. And PJs, we know they main enemies being the Monas and the Grape Streets. They're 2 years removed from a situation where they was having some back and forth gunplay with the Grapes in 2023, when the Grapes accused the PJs of being in their hood out of bounds, and some things went left off 99th.
You for PJs? Oh, you for PJs? All right, nigga. All right, nigga. Baby, look, nigga, please, nigga. No, like, get from right here, nigga. Get in the car. Get in the car. Hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry up. Drive up, cuz. You got my...
But that wasn't the only situation that really jumped it off between them and the Grapes in 2023. We seen over here April of that year, Myron Williams killed on 114th and Carosis in the PJs, 24 years old, losing his life in the projects. We know these projects, even though things are on a decline, except for another part of the city, the projects are a spot that you can't get too comfortable in. At any point in time, either one of these projects can go up. Now we know we got the big 3 out here, Nickerson's, Jordan Downs, and Imperial. Of course, Hacienda Village is also here, but they're not on the capacity scale of these other 3 projects. We know the Jordan Downs, when they done building it up, it's gonna have about 1,500 units in it. The Bounty Hunters got about 1,000 units in their projects. PJ Watts got about 500 units, while Hacienda Village has less than 200 units in their projects. So Myron Williams being killed in April 2023 seemingly was the precursor to everything that jumped off that year. I can't say if Myron was for sure from PJ Watts, but nonetheless, he did lose his life in the projects. But when Dollar Ray got killed 2023, 30-year-old Rayshawn Gordon, this seemingly was the straw that broke the camel's back over here in Watts. So July 16, 2023, Dollar Ray, along with 4 other people, were hit inside Imperial Courts in the parking lot. We know all of these projects, these dudes be in the parking lots on 99th in the Jordan Downs, 114th in the PJs, Zamora, 115th in the Bounty Hunters, 114th. All of these spots are known for big congregations, and that seemingly is what happened with Dollar Ray over here on July 16th. So 2 weeks after that, the Grapes alleged the PJs was out of bounds in the Jordan Downs. And I can't say exactly what they were doing, but 19-year-old Kemonte Johnson did lose his life being shot with 3 other people, 2 females and another dude. Now, the news reports say that it was a sporting event they were attending. This is July, the middle of the summer. I can't say exactly what these dudes was doing, but the Grape Street say that these dudes was creeping around looking to get cracking. and a situation ensued where 19-year-old Kimante lost his life. Now, we seen the Grapes taunting the Candlelights, dissing Kimante, dissing the PJs, and we know this set a situation off where people felt like they couldn't hold a Candlelight in the Jordan Downs, being that this is somebody from the PJs. And there was a lot of tension going on over here in Watts.
Dang, this your Brody.
Defense win every time.
Hey, first bitch, one miss.
On BL, nigga.
Let me spark the weed, hold on.
Yeah, hit that iPad, bro.
Oh, you a nigga. Yeah, spark Kimante. Spark the weed, let me spark the weed.
Now, I was over here at that time, a little bit after Kimante was killed. There was a Candlelight that wasn't kicked over on 99th and Juniper, but the situation wasn't over with. And the following month, August 28th, on Willowbrook and 110th, we know Grape got a pocket right there between 110th and 112th, where Karan Williams ended up losing his life over here just a month after Dollar Ray and Kimante. So Watts has seemingly de-escalated from that point. In 2023, over the years, things have calmed down between PJ and Grape Street, it seemed like. But we know with the projects, it's more beef to go around, and we know the feds are here as well. But there is a lot of notable figures that's coming out the Imperial courts, man. A lot of people that may get overlooked, and some people that do got some big names out here. Number one, Pay Gotti. That's somebody that's really stamping his name in the industry right now. Records with EBK J-Bo. We just seen him with D3 and Rucci, bringing that Blood, Crip, and Paru connection out in the projects. We seen him with Kai Sinat on the stream. He doing his thing, coming out the PJs. We know Bobby Yeye coming out the PJs. Executive produced that Imperial Dreams movie on Netflix. You know, somebody who's been a face over here, Lil Draws. We seen him years back on Street TV. We've also seen Jack Boy Bino come out the projects, and he had a buzz. Now, I believe he's sitting down, but that was somebody that was also coming out the projects and had some views with the music.
Don't act like you don't know the program, Broham. Make a nigga drop no flow dance, oh damn. You cute, but I want your friend, no friends. Niggas be snakes, but I don't know them.
Faux Baby, Buan Bands. It's a lot coming out the projects, as y'all know. All these sections be having talent and individuals coming out of them. But that's just a few people to watch out for coming out the PJs. Now, like I said, the main beefs with PJ, Grape Street, Mona, they also beefing with Carver. They beefing with 10 Line across 112, Nut Hood, Watts. But they influence is seemingly stretching past the Hub and the Dub and going to the west side of South Central, where I've seen these dudes recently having a back and forth with them West Side 90s. Now, we know the 9-0s stay in some beef. I heard Fat Jack dissing these dudes on that Is Regular record. I think these two hoods have been going back and forth really with the music over the last couple years. I don't know if it's fully broken out into some full-fledged murder beef, but I felt like it was low-key strange to see them and the 9-0s going at it based on how far away these dudes are. Both of them hoods are extremely active, and neither one of them hoods have a problem with beefing with anybody. Hopefully that situation stays with the music. I have seen the PJs going over to the 9-0s in their store doing some dissing. Regular shit, you know, but that's not a situation I can truly see going up based on how far PJ Watts is from Jesse Owens.
This is my hood. My boy.
You know what's going on? You hear me? Don't go to that.
Where the nachos at?
Yeah.
You hear me, though? Front line, though. Top of them, though.
But a situation people really don't be talking about that much is Mona Park, Compton Crip, and PJ Watts. Now, to break the trajectory down to where PJ Watts is in correlation with Mona, both of their hoods is in between Willowbrook Avenue, and Mona Boulevard. Now, PJ Watts is bigger than Mona. Mona is a smaller hood, but both of these sections have big, deadly, dangerous reputations over here in Compton and Watts. Now, PJ Watts, like I said, is going from 112th to Imperial between Wilmington and Watts Avenue. They got 4 sides to their hood over here. They got the Bull side, 115th to Corrosis, stretching up to 114th, the biggest side of their hood, 2250 the Rec Center, the middle of their hood. Every time you see anything PJ Watts, for the most part, you looking at 2250. They got the Island side, north of 115th Street, between 113 and 114. They got the Peel over there across from that pink store market between 113th and 115th. And they got the Funny side between Imperial and 115th. But not only do they got project banging, they also got block banging like all of the projects in Watts, man. They own 112th block banging. And when you come east of Wilmington down 113th, 114th, and 115th, those are also blocks. And this is what I mean by sometimes a lot of light doesn't get shed on PJ Watts. If you don't know this area, you're not familiar with it. When you go down Wilmington, it doesn't look like projects is over here. They're not as clear cut from the streets like the Bounty Hunters or the Grave Streets. You can see them from the 105, but if you coming on the streets, you can really end up in a bad position turning down one of these blocks and end up in the middle of the projects, man. But overall, they do have some terrain over here. Now, Mona Park is just down Willowbrook from these dudes. So Willowbrook turns into Wilmington around 115th, but Mona Park is existing on both sides of Willowbrook between 118th and El Segundo, stretching between Wilmington and Mona Boulevard, and really Alameda once you get past 124th. But over here, they tighten it with the Carver Parks, and they cool with CV 124. Beefing with Pocket Hood, 7th Street, which is the hood right in between them and the PJs. 7th Street is not a large hood. Y'all may be familiar with it with Glasses Malone, but that is the section that separates PJ Watts and Mona Park. But the hot blocks over here, 121st, 122nd. And what we seen over here in the Monas, man, the feds played a dirty game on Mona Park Compton Crip. We're gonna detail it shortly in this video, but the ATF, the FBI, and a dirty confidential informant set the Monas all the way up over here on the east side of Compton.
Entrepreneurs, don't get it understood, dog. Don't just hear that gangster shit. We get the bread too, nigga.
But like I said, the feds enjoy this area, man. What we seen with PJ Watts, if y'all seen that Street TV interview, the last interview Street TV did with PJ Watts, it was a dude named Goldie on that interview. Goldie just went down on the federal indictment that dropped March of this year, where he was shipping meth in Cheeto bags to Indiana out of the Torrance UPS. Now, him and a female named Natasha Gorner, who I believe has ties to Six Pack East Coast, and the Coast is one of the few hoods that the PJs are cool with. Goldie and Natasha were sending packs to Indiana, man. So May 5th of this year, UPS calls the feds saying that a package came, it was messed up, and they opened it up per protocol and found 5 Cheeto bags that didn't fit the normal look of a regular Cheeto bag. This when they opened the Cheeto bag up and found 20 pounds of meth in the Cheetos and slid it right to the feds. So this is some game I'm about to give y'all. So this situation had happened to some of my people where the feds intercept the package and dress up as the mailman. They'll dress up as USPS, UPS, FedEx, whoever it is, the feds will put that uniform on after they intercept the package. And that's exactly what they did when Natasha and Goldie pulled up to pick the package up. Now, right before that, another package of Cheetos had came in, totaling 40 pounds of meth wrapped in green plastic bags in these Cheeto bags. The feds grabbed them and beelined that morning to the location in Indiana where Goldie and Natasha pulled up in the minivan, jumped out, and picked the shit up. Now, the feds do this because they want to catch you in the act. This is well beyond a reasonable doubt. They don't want to do no guessing. They don't want to have to rely on cameras. They will set you up like this. So after Goldie and Natasha picked the bags up, the feds got on their ass. Goldie go on a high-speed chase and ends up crashing the whip, going down on this federal case in March. Now, the crazy thing is he already took a plea deal for 40 pounds of meth. He done got hit with 17 years. It took him less than a year to cop out. Now, Natasha, she got these ties to the coast, I believe, on 62nd. And I don't know what she doing. I can't put no jacket on her. I'm not gonna do that, but some shit looked kind of strange. So Goldie's case was seemingly moving. Her shit just stalled out. My thing is, what made him take a plea deal for 17 this fast, other than being caught red-handed and shit, you know, and him going down previously for other shit on the state case. We know how the feds and the guidelines work. It's a point system based on your criminal history and the charges that are alleged in the federal indictment. But I believe Natasha is still out here moving around. And that's up to y'all to figure out what's really going on with that situation. But that's the feds and PJ Watts this year. Now, like I said, the PJs are cool with East Coast. Not too many allies are had with PJ Watts, but another hood is Bounty Hunter Watts. Now, you can say these two hoods are loosely allied. I wouldn't go as far to say the PJs and Knicks are clicked up. They're cordial, and they share a lot of beef together. Even with Athens Miller, Carver, Mona, Grape, but I have seen them kind of go back and forth, little scrimmages with females, shit like that. But we did have some implications when the feds hit the bounty hunters in Operation Loyalty Matters in correlation with Big U's federal indictment. Now, when we dropped that Big U federal indictment, we spoke about a confidential witness, the one that was snitching to the feds about Big U shaking down athletes, shaking down Adrian Broner, the NBA players, the NFL players. There was a confidential witness in that case who was the initial confidential witness, and the feds had put out in the paperwork somewhat of a description of this individual. Now, I know a lot of people was talking. We had another individual that we broke was a snitch, and Dale Morrison, certified rat, and some people tapped in, reached out to us about this situation with this individual and brought some things to light. Now, all we gonna do is line up the information for y'all, and y'all do what y'all do with it. But CW1 in Big U's paperwork hadn't been released up until this point. So in 2019 to 2020, the feds was in the bounty hunters, watching them move rocked up powder throughout the Nickerson Gardens and other areas of Watson Compton. The two main players in that was Damian Fats Baker and Tony T-Bone Carr. Now overall, 22 people went down, but it said that Fats and T-Bone was the main ones rocking up powder and distributing the powder through other crackheads in the neighborhood. Now Fats had made this shit a family affair. He had his stepson and his baby mama in on the operation, everybody from bounty hunters doing they shit. And like every other case, they were serving the confidential informants over here in the Knicks. Now the feds had Fats and T-Bone phones wired, listening into their conversation. They had T-Bone speaking about spraying guns throughout the Knicks, and the Nickersons were extremely hot at this time with the gunplay, and we gonna get into that as well. But them people end up raiding one of the crackheads' house. Everything goes down, shit goes left. These dudes all hit the feds. Now, T-Bone was about 50 at this time when shit hit the fan in 2020, and he was originally sentenced to 188 months in the feds, with this being his 7th felony drug trafficking conviction in his 50s. They hit him over the head, but one would say 188 months when you facing a life sentence for your 7th drug conviction is a sweet ass deal. And this is what takes us to that Big U indictment. Now, we know a lot of people spoke about the people snitching on there. I heard somebody talking about the 50 gang members just telling like that. Motherfucker just be saying anything. 50 people ain't finna take the stand. It may only be like 3 or 4. But the description that the feds gave of this individual was, number one, about his criminal history. 2003, 2009, violations for the drugs, safety code 113.5. Now we know that's usually that crack, that health and safety code. Niggas is serving off that. So when we look into Tony Carr, T-Bone, we look into his criminal history in LA County, 2009, what does he have? That health and safety code violation, 113.5. Now again, in 2003, he not only had another health and safety code, but he also had shooting into an inhabited dwelling. But follow the words, in violation of Penal Code 246. 2003, we see this dude with a 242-243. So mind you, the feds in the Big U paperwork didn't say he was convicted of a 246. They said he was in violation of a 246. When they brought the charges on him in 2003, they only had enough seemingly to bring the 242 to 243. So in basic terms, November 2003, he goes down. He initially violated the 246, shooting in an inhabited dwelling. Somehow, some way, he got his shit all the way dropped down to a battery. Like I said, the Fed paperwork said it was a violation, but when we look into the actual case, the charges got dropped to a lesser crime in that situation in 2003. And that's also in his sentencing memorandum on this Fed case that he caught in the Nickerson Gardens. So like I said, some people tapped in trying to line this shit up with T-Bone being CW1. Next, we got the cooperation credit during his sentencing when he was in violation of the Title 21 U.S. Code 846, which is the federal indictment and the same violation that he went down for in his most recent drug case out the Nickerson Gardens. Violation 846, which again, based on his points and his past record, he was facing a life sentence for. So the feds say he received cooperation credit and got some leniency at his sentencing. And in total, he was facing 7 charges, a part of this indictment. Again, supposed to have an L for this shit with his track history. A part of his plea agreement, they dropped counts 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. which, mind you, they had him dead to rights on, with him serving to a confidential informant and having him on the wiretap, which is where they negated the life sentence for this dude, only charged him with counts 1 and 14, giving him 188 months, which is 15 years and 8 months, seemingly for his cooperation. Now, what we see a lot of times, most people think if you cooperate, you're not finna go to jail at all. Mind you, when you look in the Big U paperwork, all he did was talk about the Adrian Broner situation and niggas shaking down NBA players in the extortion. He ain't give up no bodies, no murders. He ain't take the stand on nobody. So that's not finna get him all the way clear cut off of a life eligible offense. But it got him all the way down to 15 years when he was facing the L, again, for his 7th felony drug conviction. But the main thing on how we reached this same person being CW1 is the last description that the feds gave of this individual. This person got pardoned by Joe Biden on his sentence. Everything was commuted and he came home. Now, there's a list of everybody that's gotten pardoned out of the Central District of California for 846 offenses. The shit is basic math. We go through the list, and who do we find that matches the description? Tony T-Bone Carr out of Bounty Hunter Watts, pardoned by Joe Biden, originally sentenced to 15 years and 8 months, level 32, category 5 points. And with the enhancements, it was taking him to a life offense. But he wasn't the only one to get pardoned by Joe Biden in this indictment. Donald Langram, Fats, a bunch of other people got pardoned as well, but they didn't have the same criminal background and history that lined up with CW1 in Big U's case. So y'all do with that what y'all want. But this is what I mean by the feds like this area over here in Watts, man. Them people over here.
Hey, I want to get the ops down there. Hey, the right down there.
We don't call it Carver Park, we call it Starver Moore. Don't never be at that park. Nigga go pull up right there and smoke a blunt right now.
Look, you see the, get the sign.
You see it, man?
Zoom in on that.
Zoom in. Who gonna say that stay hood but let us hit up on it? Nigga, Bunny is right there, my nigga. We got the CKNs, nigga.
With the DAs, nigga, stop playing.
Now, like I said, at this same time, this area was extremely active between bounty hunters, PJ Watts, Carver Park, and Mona Park. In January 2021, on 123rd and Compton in the Carvers, LaRon Folings is killed. April 3rd, 2021, 121st and Central, the Carvers. Carl Hampton is killed. And over the next 2 months, there are 6 homicides inside the Nickerson Gardens. And most of them in the same spots. Multiple on 114th and multiple on 115th. Zamora, Success, it went up in the projects. Now at this same time, it seemed like the Carvers and the Bounty Hunters going at it, the PJs and the Monas going at it. It seemed like a 2-on-2 across the 105 freeway. So prior to these situations, we go to May 2nd, 2020, with Gregory Taco Black, Horace PJ Wayne Shakelin, Katrina Hurricane Briggs, and Kenneth Headbuster Braggs coming out of PJ Watts. So the morning of May 2nd, 2020, it was alleged that Taco and PJ Wayne them bent on 119th and Willowbrook, where they found Jason McKinley at his mama house in the Mona Parks and got cracking, jumped out on this dude out of a burgundy Buick and killed him right there that morning, May 2nd. By August 13th, Taco and his crimees go down and everything was looking all bad. So the lead detective on the case ends up putting a recording device, unlawful recording device, in the hallway between Taco, PJ Wayne, and Headbuster cells. Now this recording device, he didn't get it signed off by the judge. And the way it was placed, it could have unlawfully recorded conversations between a defendant and his lawyer, which is breaking the confidentiality law. The police cannot be involved in any communication that anybody has with a lawyer as a defendant. And again, the judge didn't say this dude could record these guys anyways, but he was trying to jump ahead, put the microphone on these dudes in hopes that they talked about the homicide over here in the Mona Parks. And this bit him in the ass when it came time for Taco, at least, to work a deal out with the prosecutors. Now, the prosecutors allege that this situation with the recording device didn't influence them on offering a deal to him, which was 5 years probation, no jail time, sat in jail for a year on a body, got out on probation. They said all they had on him was that he was a lookout for a previous attempted murder in the Jordan Downs where the PJs was trying to get up on the grapes, shot at somebody in the grapes in the same burgundy Buick. They alleged Taco was in the back seat, and that's all the evidence they had on him, dropping a premeditated murder charge with gang allegations and giving this dude 5 years of probation, and he walked free off a year. Now, the crazy thing is, PJ Wayne's lawyer had made a statement and said basically that they was confused about that. They rarely see somebody dodge a premeditated murder charge and get probation off a plea deal. He didn't take it to trial. He didn't beat it. He pled out and got out in a year. So they kind of insinuated that some shit may be on Taco jacket. Now, I don't have no paperwork on Taco. I don't know, but it put PJ Wayne them in a certain position because now that Taco's out the way, they looking at PJ Wayne. Now, he was involved in some shit where he had shot at his girlfriend off 112 and pointed a gun at her 10-year-old daughter. She called the people on this nigga, and the police hit PJ Wayne with the shells from when you shot at your baby mama crib on 112, matched the shells in the Mona Parks with the murderer Jason McKinley. So PJ Wayne hop on the horn, holla at his girl. She changed her stories to the detectives. Her ass go down for accessory for murder. The detectives then try to pull her daughters in, the ones that was there when PJ Wayne allegedly shot up the crib and pulled the gun out on one of them. And the folks allege that her lawyer hatched up a plan to make sure the kids don't testify or take the stand against PJ Wayne or their mama. The people end up arresting the lawyer and arrested some of PJ Wayne's girlfriend family for plotting to dissuade a witness. And the whole shit was a mess, man. A lot of people went down, but PJ Wayne, along with Taco, seemingly dodged the bullet with this case, while Katrina Briggs Bradley ended up getting sentenced to 12 years in the state, while Headbuster received a 21-year sentence jumping out that burgundy Buick. But Taco found himself in some more shit 2 years ago when he crashed his Benz on Century in Vermont, killing 2 people that he hit in a Honda. So he eventually went down for vehicular manslaughter after beating a murder in the Mona Parks. But around this whole time span between 2020 and 2023, between Mona, Carver, PJ Watts, the Bounty Hunters, and the Grapes, there was 40 murders between them hoods alone in they sections. And that's not counting any Southside or Sudanio hood murders. But the Monas also found themselves in the middle of some shit later that year in 2020, where people allege where they seen 80 shells drop on the 121st in broad daylight, October 22nd. Killing Edward Lynn Gray, where 5 dudes jumped out and again dropped 80 points. Broad daylight, residential street, Mona Park. Now, just to paint the scene, these ain't apartments in Mona Park. They only got a couple apartment buildings, like the corner of Willowbrook and 122nd. Most of these spots over here are gonna be houses. Just imagine these dudes jump out broad daylight on these small ass streets and drop 80 rounds, which the people alleged was a retaliatory shooting for some shit that happened the night before in the Pyrus on 135th and Avalon, where a dude named Richard Kennedy ended up losing his life, seemingly up at that Goldenberg Chicken over here on the west side of Compton. Now we know One Trey 5 is right there, West Side Pyru, and Athens Park is right there. So the people allege that Mona Park slid over to Avalon and 135th, and them niggas slid right back on the Monas the next day. And then they say the Monas slid back. A month later, in the same spot on 135th and Avalon, Deontay Johnson is killed. And then 2 weeks later, it's up in the Monas again on 123rd and Wilmington. Daryl Moore is killed. That's the borderline of Carvers and Monas. So when we talk about this decline in the city, which is good, these are the situations that exhausted the shit. But like I said previously, Mona Park got the bad end of the stick when the ATF slid to their hood in 2015.
I never understand this pain. I'm still having long talks with Fred till this day. I swear you left me all alone, this shit don't feel the same. Say homies ain't homies, these niggas steady switching lanes. While politicking with a rat, that shit ain't never game.
Now, crazy enough, there was an individual over here, and I'm sure if people from Mona is listening to this, and shout out my people from Carver Park, Shout out my people from Mona Park. Y'all know who you is. But y'all remember a dude over there named Duke, Hispanic man living on the west side of Willowbrook Avenue, 122nd and Willowbrook, at one of them apartments over there on the corner. Duke was a confidential informant since 2004. He was working with the LAPD, got his life threatened, I believe by a Sudaño hood, moved his and his family outside of LA. Fast forward to 2015, his family's tired of hiding, tired of not being in the mix. They want to come back to California. He said he looked on Craigslist. The Mona Parks was the only place he can move into, set up shop right there on 122nd and Willowbrook. And this is where he alleged Francisco Hill, aka Freebo, approached him on 122nd when he moved in, banged on him, got acquainted with him, told him 122nd was $1 million dope block. The confidential informant also smoked rock and meth. But this is the point where he befriends people from Mona. He had previously worked for the FBI, the ATF, and the LAPD at this point, and played a dirty game on 6 people from Mona Park. Dudes like Freebo, Bucky, Smoke, Slim, Milkman. Duke moves in and decides to introduce himself to these dudes from Mona and befriends these dudes. Mind you, he's watching these dudes beef it. He's saying there's a lot going on in this neighborhood. We know Mona was beefing with Pocket Hood heavy at this time, beefing with PJ Watts. They had a lot of shit going on. Duke sees this, goes straight to the ATF and tells them, yo, it's a lot of shit going on in this neighborhood I'm living in. I think y'all should take a look at it. The ATF said, sure, why not? They begin to lace this dude with Newport cigarettes, Jordans, and jerseys. He goes back to the Mona Parks, passing this shit out to this community that he's befriended. Mind you, the ATF have also began to play a race game over here. Because again, the 124s and the Monas are cool. The black and browns are cool. So now you've implemented a Hispanic man intermingling with a black gang to take these dudes out. This is why people do not trust the police. This is why these communities will never be on the same page. Look at the type of shit they was doing. And then you lace this nigga with Jordans and jerseys and shit and cigarettes. So he start passing these things out to these people and just so happens to bring up, hey, I got a connect that's actually a part of the Armenian mafia who's looking to buy guns. Now, the whole thing about this case was entrapment. None of these individuals that they targeted that ended up going down in this indictment were known to be arms dealers. None of these dudes was known to be dealing guns on the street. They forced these dudes and lured them in by saying that they would pay double or triple the price if they can somehow get them guns and get them in the hands of this snitch Duke, and he can supply his Armenian plug with these guns. So these dudes from Mona went out to seek guns from spots like Arizona and Nevada under the guise that they was gonna be paid triple what the normal street value would be for these guns. But the thing is, they didn't just take one round of guns and nab these guys. They didn't just go down off, all right, he sold me a gun, arrest him. They waited 16 months and let the Monas supply them with 57 guns to rack up the charges on these dudes. Played a dirty game over here on the east side of Compton and was using Duke to blow the whole Mona Park hood up. It was even a point in time where somebody from Mona was on the run. They called Duke like, hey, go to their hood and figure out where he is. Some dirty games. And what we see in the paperwork, they protected this dude. Usually what we see in every case, when they go to trial, your name is on there. Whoop-de-whoop took the stand. They got no problem putting regular citizens or members' names in the paperwork. But when it came to Duke, they hid his name with all their power. I still don't even know his name. So when everything blew up, the ATF and the FBI tried to stand on the fact that they didn't tell Duke to move over there in the Monas because he wasn't working as a CI at the time. But as soon as he got there, he jumped on a payroll. And from July 2015 to July 2016, they had gave this dude about 25 racks for every dealing that he had with these dudes from Mona. Now, of course, the feds gonna sit there and tell a lie and not gonna say that they told this dude to go to this specific spot. He eventually took the stand and told the judge and the defense team that this was the only spot that he could get when him and his people moved back to LA. And overall, he ended up taking advantage of the poverty and the greed of these dudes in this neighborhood and the fact that they had a lot of murder beef going on. So when Freebo went down in the room with the detectives, they was talking about how PJ Watts was sliding into the Monas, getting cracking. The feds were paying attention to all of this, and they took advantage of that situation without any of these dudes having priors or having any real crimes that they committed before they put a confidential informant on 122nd and Willowbrook. Now, some of these dudes is still out, but dudes like Freebo, he's still sitting in the feds behind this indictment. But that's what went down when a random confidential informant moved into somebody's hood. This is game. Y'all gotta listen. If y'all out here in these streets playing these games, you can't just be befriending anybody. They might be the feds. But like I said, this was around the time that Mona and PJ Watts was beefing with Pocket Hood. It was an extremely active war between Pocket Hood, who's just south of El Segundo from Carver Park. Pocket Hood is going from El Segundo to Stockwell between Wilmington and Willowbrook. Anzac Grape is also right here. They do function with Pocket Hood, but the main spot, Arambi and 130th in Pocket Hood. Another small hood in Compton, but these small hoods in Compton be having them niggas in it, man. They be having them riders coming out of these hoods, and no different is Pocket Hood. Now, Pocket Hood is aligned with Santana Block, and we had a piece video in Compton that we spoke about. We spoke about the alliances of a lot of these Compton hoods on the west side and the east side. Y'all go check that out. But it's a lot of alliances and beef at the same time between these hoods. So sometimes it's not really about the size of the hood, because they could be tied in to a bigger hood out here in Compton. But like I said, regardless of that, it's a bunch of riders from all these hoods. So it was a situation in 2014 that really turned the shit up. Right before the feds came over there on 122nd and Willowbrook, some people from Pocket Hood was having a birthday party in Carson. Now, a dude named Richard Lawrence, he was locked up at the time. His baby mama was throwing a party for their son, and Pocket Hood was in attendance. Some shit goes left, and it said that Front Hood, who was beefing with Pocket Hood at the time, had pulled up there with some people from PJ Watts, and that put the pause on them niggas from Pocket Hood, and, you know, fucked up the little kid birthday party, which is bad news. So when Richard Lawrence baby mama called him back, she tell him what happened. He like, well, who was up there? And she said, some bitches from the projects was up there with them niggas from Front Hood. And this is when Pocket Hood pressed play. So that was October 18, 2014. A week later, Christopher Stone, aka Lil Shaq from Pocket, and Dan Young, aka Dice, is sliding through the projects October 26, 8:30 at night. Like I told y'all, these projects are main spots where people congregate. These parking lots, it be hella people outside sometimes. And this is where Letitia Salazar, Tyrone Jones, and a few other people was hanging out in the PJs. It said that these dudes from Pocket Hood jumped out on them, asked them where they was from. They didn't say nothing. They ended up getting off on them, shooting Salazar in the hand and the ankle, and hitting Tyrone Jones in the face and the hand, with 5 shells recovered at the scene. Now, an hour later, these dudes spent the block back. That shit happened at 8:30, 9:20. Pocket Hood was back in the PJs, looking to get cracking. All because Stone got his face busted at a child's birthday party. It went all the way up. But as usual, it's another congregation in the PJs, man. Some more people was hanging out in the group when these niggas slid up. They said they peeped Samike Grigley hanging out with a few females. Everybody probably smoking and drinking. Again, an hour after somebody else then got shot in the same area, they noticed an Audi Q7 drive by. Now the thing is, Samike Grigley, aka Sway, was from neighborhood East Coast. Like I said, East Coast is cool with PJ Watts. She's over here hanging out with her people. Now, a female named Ashley Bowman said that she recognized Dan Young in the Q7 and he smirked at her, and she seemingly had got spooked and said they should go wait inside her crib while they waited for her brother to come out there. It was probably finna spin out somewhere. So they got out the car, finna go in the house. Stone walked up and shot Grigley in the back of the head in the PJs, and also hit Ashley Bowman in the shoulder, but she survived, and Sway lost her life over here in the projects, double shooting an hour apart. Pocket Hood, and 6 more 9mm casings was recovered. And of course, they pieced it together. They was fired from the same gun. Now, fast forward to a year later, both of them dudes is still out on the street, 1:30 in the morning on 124th and Wilmington at that Compton Mini Martin Tobacco. A dude named Deshaun Childs is at the liquor store when he runs into Dan Young, man. And Young is tripping. He say he from Pocket Hood, and he tripping on anything Mona, anything Carver. Now over here on 124th and Wilmington, this by 6 Hood, Mona Park, and Carver Park. And it's by Pocket Hood and Front Hood. It's a lot going on right here. But nonetheless, a young ended up dissing Mona, dissing Carver, and Deshaun Childs is like, wait, I'm from 7th Street. So he from 7th Street, Watts. At that time, even this time, I don't think they ever been in beef with Pocket Hood. And the crazy thing is, 1:30 in the morning, Young had a child with him, like an elementary school kid with him, while he banging on people over here on 124th and Wilmington. Like I said, he was out here tripping. But nonetheless, Deshaun Childs peels up out the store, goes to the corner. Young follows this dude. Childs turns around, sees Young on his heels. Young shoots this man in his forehead, killing him over here in the middle of the night in Compton, man. And this is what I'm talking about, with Pocket Hood going up at the same time the feds is out here beefing it with Mona Park, Carver, and PJ Watts. But overall, like I said, man, things have been on the decline. We got to stress that. We know it's been a lot of beef over the years between a lot of these hoods, and some of these hoods don't get talked about. These are historical sections in the city. Carver Park, Mona Park, the projects, these are hood monuments, man. And you know, it's always good to see motherfuckers being able to chill and continue thriving in these neighborhoods. But you know, we gotta say rest in peace to everybody that's lost their life in these wars, man. This area between Compton, Willowbrook, Watts, this shit is unforgiving over here, man. This is the gutter. And like I said, you can never be too comfortable in this situation. But this is the best hood channel on YouTube. Y'all make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Stay rocking with the channel. We gonna keep supplying y'all with this fire ass content, man. We out.